Will Ospreay has debuted, finally, in All Elite Wrestling.
Finally is a weird word.
Well, it's been so long.
He's a New Japan talent. I'm not sure you could say he's finally
He's
debuted.
finally turned up there. We've been having teases for a week.
2 weeks.
Wasn't there...
It was the go-home show before... do you think there were other teasers?
No, never overt teasers, but there were a lot of times when Will Ospreay was in America doing New Japan Strong tapings, and everyone's like, this is the week. This is the week he shows up in AEW. When really he was just there to do the New Japan Strong taping.
Which is what he's contracted to do.
Finally! I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luke Owen, DAD. Welcome to the AEW Dynamite Review Podcast. Please click the thumbs up button. Leave a comment down below. Give us a subscribe. Go watch another video on this channel as soon as you're done watching this one. And send in your Omegachats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one of them, over $5 before the end of the show. And also, a big thank you to today's sponsor, Geology.
Geology is reinventing men's skin care. Now, you may have noticed that this episode of the WrestleTalk Podcast looks oh so lovely because we've got a brand new camera. We are filming things in much high def. And because we're filming things in much high def, we need to look as good as we always do. And that is why... don't drop them on the table.
I didn't mean to do that.
We have Geology to thank for that. So what happens is you click that link in the video description down below. You take this little 30-second quiz, and it asks you what you want out of your men's skincare routine. I've taken the quiz. Ollie's taken the quiz. Everyone in the office has taken the quiz, and we then have been given our bespoke packages that give us the things that we need. So we've got like face washes in there. We both got the eye one, right? Because. Yep. I've got an 8-month-old, so I don't get a whole lot of sleep anymore.
I've done 2 night shift live reactions this year. I need all the night stuff I can get.
Exactly. So we are making sure ourselves look so much nicer thanks to Geology. 3,000 5-star reviews.
Oh, wow.
Nothing wrong with that.
Well, I can... We both use it. We've been using it since they started sponsoring us like late last year.
Absolutely, yes.
So I would definitely give it 5 stars too.
So click the link in the video description down below. Head to geology.com and take your free skincare quiz. And then you can save up to 50% off your 30-day trial. That's geology.com. Save 50% off your 30-day trial using our link in the video description down below.
Right, so this episode of AEW, it's going to be... Okay, disclaimer. Didn't like it.
I thought you were joking when you came into the office this morning. Ollie, I arrived before Ollie did, and I was just setting things up to record Cineworld. And Ollie came down and he looked at me and he said, "How S was last night's episode of Dynamite?" And I really honestly thought you were joking.
That was hyperbole. I don't think it was S.
But you then got very defensive when you would make your point as to why you thought the show was S, and then people would be like, yeah, but X, Y, and Z, and then you got really shouty at people, and I believe you said the words, "The AEW I love is crumbling."
Well, the AEW, I did, this is exactly what I said. The AEW that I love is crumbling, and no one else can see it. And it makes me sound like a madman.
You sound like Hangman Page against CM Punk.
Is a tad frustrating, but that's okay. Just from my point of view, everything from Winter is Coming through to late last year is almost 90% and above television, just all year round. It's the greatest run of most consistent, high-quality wrestling programming I've ever seen. And you've got to think, then that means ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's controversial to say that has somewhat gone off the boil this year. But you constantly say to me, off-air. Yeah, you're right. It's not as good as it was last year.
No, but it doesn't mean it's a bad show, though.
No, it is.
And I don't even think it's off the boil either.
if you look at all my sort of ratings, you'll still see I don't think I've rated anything under 70%, which is 3.5. But there was this thing that was doing like everything flawlessly for so long, and now I gave today's one a 78%, and that would have been unthinkable last year. And it's just like, what I think where a lot of my concern comes from is, of course, like, it's still a hugely enjoyable wrestling program. That for instance, this episode, I really fundamentally disagree with a lot of the booking. Like, I think it's bad booking, which is something I've never really had a gripe with against AEW, because I can always go, well, let's see where it goes. Let's see. But the only things I've been down on are Satnam Singh's debut and that Deonna Purrazzo main event. Those are like, I see fundamentally bad booking. But there's a handful of those in AEW's history.
Interestingly enough, both Ring of Honor related, which has been, I would say, an overarching issue that you've got with not AEW as a product, but AEW as a business, the acquisition of Ring of Honor and trying to have Ring of Honor stuff within the Dynamite show, but not really having much of a direction for said Ring of Honor show.
I think that's true. I think you can probably trace this back to the Double or Nothing Go Home episode, when Tony Khan...
in the parking lot? Hey, I saw you. You're in the parking lot.
And I was just like, well, this should be the greatest thing ever. It's directly appealing to me. But what's missing here? Anyway, since then, I feel like all the stuff that's been promised, that the TNT title is going to be this secondary, like, akin to the World Championship, that so will the TBS, the women's division is going to get better, Rampage is going to be just as important as Dynamite. All these things have not happened. I also think that the main event feuds haven't, the main title feuds have not been on fire. And I think there's a distraction element happening with the Ring of Honor New Japan Masters to serve that is really diluting the quality of the product, not to like nowhere near a WWE level, but it's quite far down from what we experienced last year. And I think what concerns me is if we keep going down this path, I can see how this becomes TNA, not that bad, but I can see how this becomes quite nonsensical and not good quickly.
I think I don't want to try and address each of your points individually, because that's not what we're here to discuss at the top of the episode here.
Yeah, love Will.
Yeah, I was going to say, but I mean, looking at the Will Ospreay thing in particular, you weren't a fan of this segment.
Well, this was like the least offensive one for me, but I think Will Ospreay in AEW is a huge, huge deal. I want Will Ospreay to come in as a singles guy to challenge a top guy. And, hopefully Kenny Omega, right?
Not happening at this show.
Not happening at this show. There's injuries, and that's fine. But to have him come out midway through the show in a
top of the hour.
To have him come out midway through the show in an FTR Trent best friends segment when they're talking about the Ring of Honor tag team titles because of that feud with the United Empire from a few weeks ago. Like, yeah, sure, Will Ospreay, great. I popped. The crowd chanted, "This is awesome," and he stood there, and United Empire looked great. But is that how I would have done an Ospreay debut in AEW? Because you only get one of those. You only get one chance to do a first impression.
Yeah, and this first impression that we got was an excellent presentation of Will and the United Empire with an and I'll be honest with you, this crowd weren't into everything that was on this show. Audibly quiet for massive portions of this show, particularly in that women's match, though I don't think the AEW gave them much of a reason to really get involved in that. But yeah, this was a great presentation of Will. He looked awesome. His group looked awesome. The crowd thought it was awesome. And yet you're still being like, that's not what I would have done.
Yeah.
But he goes but this isn't like, this is it.
No.
There is more for Will to be done within AEW.
Okay, well, let's try and reverse engineer this. If this was a year or two ago, oh my God, it's Kenta. He's just showed up. Wow. The possibilities are endless. Go back even further in WWE. Oh my God, it's Shinsuke Nakamura. This is amazing.
That is a very bad...
Let me finish. I think they're actually quite relatable. oh my God, it's Shinsuke Nakamura. How can they screw this up? There's going to be loads of things that happen. But time and time again with AEW, it's not that it's bad. It's just like these people just show up and then they go away again.
Right. But this is building towards a joint pay-per-view venture full of dream card matchups, right? Not even every match has to be a dream card thing. It's just, here are stars you never thought you would see in the ring together, and they're facing off again. For example, our main event is probably going to be Jon Moxley versus Hiroshi Tanahashi, a match they tried to do in New Japan, haven't quite got around to doing it. I think they did a fatal 4-way. Or like Hangman Page versus Okada. These sort of matches you never thought would happen. We don't know what Will is doing at Forbidden Door yet, but we could guess by going 2 weeks ago that Great Khan and Jeff Cobb will be part of a Ring of Honor triple threat tag team match, maybe a fatal 4-way tag team match. So we knew that they were going to be involved in that. So I don't know then why you're surprised that Will Ospreay is involved in this. His faction's involved in that story.
Yeah. Again, this is like, in the grand scheme of this episode, this was like just a missed opportunity thing for me to have done something bigger.
So, okay.
It's my problem.
To give you the ball, what would you have done?
I would have built a proper singles feud dream match
between
Will Ospreay and, I don't know, give me the AEW roster. Pac.
Well, Pac's involved in something else.
Yeah, and that's freaking ridiculous. Look, Malachi Black.
Involved in something else.
Yes, but the problem is there's something else. You've tied up all these guys for what else happens on the episode? We're getting another championship title.
Which really was not needed.
Not needed at all. It looks beautiful.
Lovely belt. Lovely, ultimately, pointless belt.
Yeah, and it's going to have it's the All-Atlantic belt. It's going to have people from all around the world. Maybe Will go into that tournament because there is a New Japan slot open.
Yeah.
He is British. But like,
and then he's actually going to be in a match with possibly Pac and Malachi Black, so you kind of get what you want there.
Yeah, and in that case, great. That is a genuine dream match.
So that for me,
but a dream match for me is a Will Ospreay singles match, and I would like a nice feud around that.
But that's kind of where my point I was going to make is that when I look at what happened on this show, is a really awesome showing for Will Ospreay that made him look like a big deal, and it made his group look like a big deal, and the crowd reacted hugely to it. And now I get to see, cool, what's next week then? What happens next week? Because if it's next week and it's announced that he is a second to Great Khan and Jeff Cobb going as the ROH titles, then I'll be like, grand, terrible thing to do there. That is not what I would have done with a Will Ospreay. But I don't know what they're doing with Ospreay yet, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, this is bad, this is not how I would have done a Will Ospreay thing. Because we might still get like that big Will Ospreay singles match, in which case, there's nothing really here to be mad about.
So I didn't say it's bad. I just said this is not how I would have done it.
Yeah.
Yes, so I guess it comes down to faith in what's coming next.
Mm-hmm.
My gut feeling is that he isn't going to get a big singles match. I hope I'm wrong. I do not mind being wrong on that at all. And he'll just be in the mix because he's like quite heavily injured. He's having the New Japan match this weekend.
So you want him to have a big singles match that he could
but this is it. But like, if he's not going to have a singles match, keep him off. And then you do that big debut later. So,
but then you would have had the argument of like, it's a New Japan show and Will Ospreay's not booked on this show.
Yeah. Kenny Omega isn't booked on this show.
But Kenny Omega's not been on TV since October of last year.
Yeah, but they're injured. That's fine.
Yeah.
So that's okay for me.
But
if you're going to do a Forbidden Door thing and Will Ospreay isn't up to having a good singles match,
then I hide him in an 8-man tag. I didn't know that Will was hurt.
I'm pretty sure he's got like a kidney infection or something.
Because he was pulled out of Rev Pro, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was pulled off a Rev Pro show. So maybe, okay, I mean, if it is an 8-man tag of, actually it'd probably be like a 10-man tag.
But he wrestled a match the other day.
So he probably isn't.
No, spoiler, he wrestles on Rampage.
I was going to say, yeah, of course he is. Yeah. Which actually, the other point I was going to make earlier when you said like Rampage, I'm so looking forward to this week's episode of Rampage. It doesn't happen very often. Because it's Will Ospreay and Aussie Open. And I love Aussie Open. I think they're a fabulous tag team. It's why I gave the show 5 out of 5. Well, Aussie Open were on the show. It's a joke. But like, yeah, I think if Will is part of a 10-man tag of United Empire versus FTR, Roppongi Vice, and like FTR and the Best Friends, yeah, it's not great. It's not brilliant, but it's also not going to be the only show that they're going to do with AEW and New Japan. But that is something I would say that is not the best use of a Will Ospreay there.
Well, so on this one, I guess we should park it and just say, let's see where it goes. I want to reiterate that I don't think this bit was bad. I just think it left a lot on the table. I think the rest of the show was bad. I'm very happy that Will's in there. Do you want to talk about Aussie Open? Because you were the first person I thought of when they turned up.
Well, Aussie Open are like, for my money, it's funny because, there's a lot of... There's actually a line in this episode that really made me think of you, and it made me laugh out loud. And it was during this segment when FTR were making their entrance. JR said, for my money, it's the greatest tag team on the planet. Excalibur, I know that you may think it's the Young Bucks. I love the Young Bucks too, but for my money, it's FTR. And Excalibur just pauses and goes like, Jurassic Express are also very good. They are our current tag team champions. Yep. Even in a segment they're not involved in, they are the third wheel of someone else's feud. But for me, like, Aussie Open are one of the greatest tag teams on the planet. There was a tag act that when AEW was first starting up and they were signing a lot of talent from the independent circuit, I was like, man, I hope they pick up Aussie Open because hot dang, they're so good. Now that they're doing some stuff in New Japan because of like they're doing stuff with Will as part of his faction, it's so awesome to see. I think Kyle Fletcher is an incredible talent with terrible hair. Mark Davis, though, he is one of my... Dunkzilla is one of like my favorite just guys to just watch wrestle. Like, we used to go to Rev Pro shows, and if Mark Davis was advertised for a show, I remember being just so excited for it. When we did Wrestling MediaCon, Mark Davis came out for a singles match, and I was so sorry. And someone was so... I was like incredibly thrilled to see. I was like, oh my God, I get to see Mark Davis wrestle a singles match. Do you remember who it was against?
Who was it?
It was the Great O'Khan in a squash match, and being crushingly disappointed that Rev Pro were again giving me a Great O'Khan squash match I didn't want to see, much to my chagrin. It was also against Mark Davis, who I wanted to see in a singles match. So I love those two together. Perfect big man, little man tag team. And they're not going to be sticking around in AEW. Like, they're not going to do like a whole series of matches with it, but they'll do like a couple of dream match stuff. I cannot wait to watch Rampage on Friday. See Will and Aussie Open versus FTR and Trent. I honestly cannot wait to see that match. I'm avoiding all spoilers for it.
Aussie Open are fantastic,
Super.
as is Will Ospreay. So
we saw. Were you there for it? The Carl Fletcher Jordan Devlin singles match? I think it was Super Strong Style a few years back.
What's that?
Was
that the final?
It was the match that ended with the headbutts.
Yes. Oh no, that was an extraordinary match.
Extraordinary match. It was like a quarter-final match.
Yeah.
But it was like one of the greatest finishes I've ever seen live.
But yes, exciting that Will Ospreay is finally here. Shall we see what the?
Yes. I apologize if I misrepresented your thoughts on the subject.
No. It's not so much that. It's more that I imagine that's going to be.
It's what the people's takeaway.
Yeah, so I just want to keep reiterating that I still AEW is still my favorite thing to watch. I still have so much fun watching it. But this episode, I fundamentally disagree with the booking, and I'm worried that these problems seem to be traced back to the ROH purchase, and I'm worried they're gonna get worse. I love AEW. I want the best for it, and I don't want my baby boy.
As you said, the AEW love is crumbling apart.
It's strong. But,
it's strong, but like I get what you mean, and I would say that this was not one of the strongest episodes of Dynamite I've ever seen. But it's also not a show that's made me go like, oh man, there are cracks in these foundations, and I'm worried about everything that's going on.
Let's wait till we get into the
because I think we're building to a crossover show.
Hannah Allen. Lovely gents. Loving this New Japan stuff so far. Proper popped for Ospreay. Gosh, that man is marvellous. The moment Hangman called out Okada and Cole got involved, I got really excited for a second because I felt in my bones Omega was about to walk out. And the Pac Buddy match, UK versus Australia. Do you think there was any truth to the rumours the prize money was paid in Australian dollars? And that's why Pac tried so hard and Buddy lost. Buddy likely already has some right, and us Aussies don't mind sharing. Hashtag AUD World's Currency. Awful
currency it is.
Charles Berg. I dislike the Casino Battle Royal because the best part of matches with successive entrants is the pop when they enter. And don't you really get that for the CBR, Casino Battle Royal, was that Will Ospreay or Jake Paul. Huh?
He said you don't really get that for the Casino
Alright.
Battle Royal.
Oh, was that Will Ospreay or Jake Paul? I thought he did look very tanned.
His hair.
Yeah,
I was like, that's not Will's hair. We did get an email from someone, actually. I'm going to just read out this email just quickly. Where is it? This said, this is literally the whole thing of the email. It just says, hello, I started watching wrestling again when AEW started on ITV4. For that, it was the Attitude Era as a kid until Triple H drove me away. So I've never seen Will Ospreay until Dynamite this week. Him and his mates looked like the standard lads seen in a Weatherspoons on a Friday night. The way they dressed was so strange to see. Thanks, James.
They do. Giles Berg, back to what he said. Fun main event, even if it was very predictable. Oh, and one other thing. If you guys don't do Sully is Coming promos for 6 months, then what is the point of doing Sully is Coming promos? Honestly, milk it forever. Do Sully is Coming promos and never follow through. Then, in 3 years, randomly debut him. Peeling back the curtain, that was originally the plan, but now we need him to be on the news.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do that gag.
It was the plan. We did Randy Games instead.
Yeah, because Andy got over and we had to course correct. But we were going to do Sully is Coming promos for like a month and a half.
What we did was we listened to the audience.
You were the authority figures. Right, DR. Hey, yo. Awesome to see Will Ospreay on my American television channel on my Japanese-made TV. Now we just need a video package, so even those who are unaware of the awesomeness of Ospreay know who he is. I still love you, Ollie, even if I must disagree with you.
Well, that's kind of what Rampage is for, I suppose.
Yeah, I can't wait for that video package to not happen. Ever.
Nope. AEW doesn't have time for video packages.
Keith Below. I think I understand Ollie's frustration with Will. No, not with Will. We gave WWE a lot of guff when Roman was put in 3-on-3 matches instead of a singles match at his last premium live event. Still have faith that they'll put together a good card. I'll be there live to see it. Can't wait.
Can you believe that Roman's not on Money in the Bank?
Crazy.
It's insane, isn't it?
Omar Josui. In relation to Ollie's argument for not liking the episode, I don't necessarily disagree. However, I do feel that PTSD over how WWE booking and its results may have made Ollie fearful of AEW falling in the same pitfalls. I have faith they won't, but I get it. It isn't WWE PTSD. It's every other indie company, major American promotion I've seen try to do a competition against WWE. That I'm seeing there. That's
what I was about to say. It's not WWE, it's TNA.
It's TNA, it's WCW, it's Ring of Honor. It's all of those where they failed. Anurag Srivastava. I 100% agree with Ollie. That's more like it. AEW, till not so long ago, was actually amazing, close to flawless, barring few segments. This is me here, usually Cody Rhodes. But lately it's just been good. Rampage has become missable, and like Ollie, I also think the trajectory is the thing that is bad, not the show itself.
Okay, so that's interesting, because I don't think I can fully get behind this idea that this show is good being a negative. Like, not every it's the same with Netflix thought that they would just have an exponentially growing business forever. It's just not how things work. Multi-billion-dollar corporations are just like, well, we made X amount of money this year, so next year we must double that money. And if you don't, it's like, well, let's fire everyone and just scrap everything and try this new thing. It's not how the world works. So when I watch a show that is a 5-star quality thing, Stranger Things is a good example of this. When Series 2 and 3 were not as good as Series 1, I wasn't a person who was just like, well, that's it, the show's gone off the rails. And I was probably fully expecting that because Show 1 was so good that Series 2 and 3 were going to struggle to reach those heights again. Series 4, on the other hand, I think has again reached those heights, and I think it's the best series since Series 1. So everything has peaks and troughs.
What are you excited about in AEW right now?
What am I excited about? It's difficult. I was about to say it's difficult because the CM Punk thing has just thrown everything out the loop. But I tell you what, Forbidden Door. And when we get to Forbidden Door, and it's going to be a really, really fun show. That's what I'm excited about.
What sort of storylines?
What storyline? That's the problem, is that we're not really in a big storyline era at the moment because we're building towards Forbidden Door. We're building towards a joint venture pay-per-view with dream matches that aren't really story-based things. It's just the idea of star versus star.
What matches are you excited?
Well, they've only announced one so far, Ollie, so it's hard to...
Well, but like of all the ones they're building to?
Moxley versus Tanahashi. Because I think Tanahashi's going to get the AEW Interim Championship.
That's good. The Rick Petch. Felt production took away from this show. production was pretty bad.
That battle royal misstep was very funny.
Like music cues during the battle royal, the crowd mic seeming low, especially during the Ospreay segment. Tony Schiavone said the crowd was wild, but they sounded quiet. You could see lots leaving during the women's match on the hard cam. I didn't go into this on my review, but this felt like year one production. Like
I don't know if it's that bad.
They cut to the back for these like quite cool backstage promos, mic'd terribly.
Yeah, but
on
it was
the fight feed. You got random bits of audio.
Yeah, because they usually cut the audio, but you could hear Justin Roberts being like, "Hey, I love your sign, love your crowd sign." And there was a moment you can even hear Jim Ross going over the notes like the next segments and stuff. But I will stress again, this is not year one production level bad because. Hasn't been that bad for a while, but that was dreadfully terrible.
Monty Granito, I came back to wrestling with AEW, and you were right, Ollie. The AEW I loved is dead. Well, I don't think dead's a strong word. It's like it's looking ill though.
I don't even think it's looking ill.
I think they've got sniffles.
I don't even think they've got sniffles.
Oh, they've got the sniffles bad.
I don't think, last week was a great show. The week before that was a great show. We just come on the back of a really good pay-per-view.
Last week was a great show.
Like not even a bad show, one okay show. And all of a sudden everyone's like, well, this company is dead and we may as well give up now.
Okay. Let me go to my ratings document. Because this was one of the purposes I did this. I shouldn't search ratings. In our Google
no.
Do you want to keep reading?
I will do as well.
The chats.
Where did we get to? Did you finish Monty Granito's one?
No, I don't think so.
Anyway, so I think a lot of the creative was driven by Cody and the Bucks in the past. Now it feels like Punk is leading creative, and it's much more WWE.
I feel like it can go back to when Omega left.
I don't even think you can. Tony Khan's.
But it is Tony who's the number one.
Yeah, Tony. Like the 2019 era of AEW was like that. Cody, the Bucks, and Omega. Then January 2020 is when Tony Khan took over and has done everything ever since. So I think you could probably say that some things were Cody led, but I think this is all just Tony Khan. Ben says, I hope we at least get a big dream match that has never happened before. Paige versus Agata has already happened too. Granted, it was pre-Cowboy Shiznit. I fear New Japan favorites like Switchblade and Ospreay will be stuck in tag team matches. Mm-hmm. Peter Mullins, I came into Dynamite spoiler-free and popped so hard when Ospreay turned up. Last time I popped that hard was for Regal. It was that good. I don't care about the lack of build. For me, it makes the surprise even better. # don't sneeze next to Ospreay Ollie.
That's a reference to when I accidentally coughed at the start of the pandemic behind that camera with Will Ospreay, and he looked like he crapped his pants.
Well, I mean, I remember we were filming that the announcement video for No Fans Monday, and Will Ospreay came in, and you're right, like it wasn't the start like the pandemic where everyone had been sent home, but it was
like second week of March.
It's like second week of March. Ospreay came in here while we were all setting up, and the first thing I did was just go over to shake his hand. It's what you always do with professional wrestlers. And he just sort of looked at me and said, like, oh, we're not shaking hands at this point. I was like, yeah, of course we're not. There's this whole COVID thing we're worried about.
Okay, so I've got my scores here. Unfortunately, I didn't do this last year, so I can't do it. But best episode of the year, 97%, Punk versus MJF.
Great match.
Amazing. 2nd of February. The next best episode of the year was last week. Then it is really weighted for the March onward episodes are lower down, particularly like April.
So when you say lower down, what are we saying? Because like if they're in the 80% bracket, they're sort of 4 out of 5 episodes.
Yeah,
but that's good. If a show is one side is getting 5 out of 5 shows and then is consistently getting 4 out of 5 scores, surely that's a great wrestling product.
But this is what Monty was agreeing with me with. It's like I'm seeing this.
Last week was a 5 out of 5 episode.
It's a blip.
It's peaks and troughs. Like business, you have peaks and troughs.
The business comparisons I don't think are fully apt, just because this is I do think creative product is different.
No. I'm not saying they are comparable. I'm just saying, like, it's as an example. There are businesses in this world that think you are just going to make money every year and every year and every. Like Netflix, we're just going to gain subscribers every year. When there is a ceiling to how many. I think it's the same way actually with wrestling. There is a ceiling of how many people are actually interested in watching wrestling on TV, and I think with some shows, not every season of The West Wing is brilliant. Not every season of Stranger Things is brilliant. Not every season of a show that's run for brilliant. Not every season of That 70s Show was brilliant. In fact, the last season was downright terrible. But there were some seasons that are absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So for me, AEW was wrestling's equivalent of Breaking Bad or The Wire or The Sopranos, where it is always amazing. Apart from season 3 of Sopranos, but that had a death right at the start.
But then did it get good again?
Yeah, it did.
So why are we?
Well, because I've only got 3 examples of shows that are consistently great all the way through. All other shows, when they start getting bad, they keep getting bad because they've lost it.
When you say lost it, do you mean that they have lost their direction or they have done a lost?
Well, yeah, both. Glenn Vlerick. Oh, did you finish, Monty?
I was going to say, I think we finished all of them. I read them all out. We could do these ones. The 666 Sentinel. This episode could be summed up by a line Oli has said dozens of times over the last few months. AEW is a victim of its own success. Now we expect 10 out of 10 shows every week and get disappointed with an 8 out of 10 show, and that's not realistic. That's kind of the argument that I'm making.
Okay, yeah, and usually I would say I kind of agree because I'm like 85%, 80%. But this had stuff on that I'm like, that was a bad idea. It's not like, oh, that wasn't as good as last week or last year. I was like, no, there are 5 bad ideas on this episode. And that is so rare for AEW.
Okay. I mean, I'm interested to get into some of this because I think for the majority of the show was actually totally fine. There's just some things on there where like, I don't think that was great. Tyler said, I love AEW, but this episode was terrible. The whole vibe felt really weird. No star power, bad booking, just didn't have that Dynamite feel. Crowd was terrible too. I really hope it gets better. I can't take this. Tyler, you're acting like this is a bad episode number 20 out of 20.
The whole, like, I can't take this anymore, that stuff, I don't agree with that because, you know, I look forward to AEW every week.
Yeah.
It's still my favorite show. But yeah, let's get into the play-by-play.
Well, before we do,
Geology.
We are sponsored by Geology. Get yourself looking better. It's men's skincare reinvented. A simple skincare routine formulated for daily use. Click the link in the video description down below and you take the 30-second quiz, and then that will pick out a skincare routine for you. Follow that skincare routine and you will look amazing.
I do it every morning. I do it every night. You've got to wash. You've got to use the facial everyday scrub. You've got to exfoliate that face, get the toxins out, and then you put the moisturizer on, the night moisturizer.
So good. Oh, it makes me feel so good.
My cheeks are so soft.
Particularly for me as well, because I shave my head. I get quite dry skin. This is very bad during winter, but I also get it in the summer as well. And this has actually made my skin feel much more refreshed. And I feel like I don't have that dry skin flakiness that I used to get on the top of me noggin.
I've noticed it.
Oh, thank you very much.
Right, this episode of... Did we do the offer and the link?
Yes, click the link in the video description down below and you get 50% off your 30-day trial.
Oh, it's well worth it. Right, so this episode, based on how we've done this so far, shall I do as an objective as possible recap of the whole segment, and then you can say what you think, and then I'll say what I think?
Sounds like an interesting idea.
Okay. So, the show started with the Casino Battle Royal to crown the person who's going to face Jon Moxley, to face the person who's to face Hiroshi Tanahashi.
No, it's to face either Hiroshi Tanahashi or Hiroki Goto.
Yeah. And the winner of that, Forbidden Door, will become the interim AEW World Champion.
As I joked last week, all this needs is Don West and Mike Tenay to say, it's really quite simple.
We got Tony Nese, Lance Archer, Daniel Garcia, Darby Allin, Eddie Kingston in the first 5, followed by Jake Hager, Ricky Starks, Ray Phoenix, Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee in the second 5, John Silver, Takeshita, Max Caster and the Ass Boys for the third 5, and Red Dragon, Powerhouse Hobbs, Dante Martin and Wheeler Yuta for the final 5, and the Joker was Andrade. The big spots that happened were Swerve turning on Keith Lee, eliminating him.
It's interesting because I didn't see it as a turn.
Well, no, he definitely betrayed
He
his
definitely
partner.
betrayed Keith Lee. Like, every man for himself.
Definitely betrayed his partner, and Keith Lee stormed off and looked angry, not like, oh,
Which
tag partner.
I was thrilled to see, because I hate it when you do that and they go like, you got me. No, he was pissed off because he wanted to win.
Swerve also eliminated Darby Allin later
spot.
on, where he was also working with Darby and then turned on him. That's why I think it's not just two former tag partners butting heads.
Yes.
I would say it's more of a slow heel turn for Strickland.
Yeah, so I thought that it was just it's an every man for themselves type of thing. But then, like, Swerve Strickland reposted it being like, got to get rid of dead weight. I'm like, oh, okay, no, I think he is just a heel now. What I would say is, this didn't feel like a heel turn, but apparently it was one.
Then it was a very subtle heel turn to build on later. And the final four were Andrade, Kyle O'Reilly, Wheeler Yuta, and Rey Fenix. All guys with a lot of momentum right now. And it was O'Reilly who won. And then Moxley cut a promo afterwards saying, well, I'll face you in the main event. I am the Forbidden Door.
It's not who I'd have had win this match.
Please give your thoughts.
So going into this, if you have been under a rock for a while, CM Punk is legitimately injured. He announced this on Rampage last week. And the company essentially wouldn't let him vacate the title, because I'm assuming he's not going to be out for that long. So they were like, and Tony Khan, that he loves crowning interim champion. So we're like, we'll just crown an interim champion. And we'll have this very convoluted battle royal.
Dan Lambert is the worst thing to happen to this company, because he's probably there with Tony going, I need another belt. And I can have more belts.
Well, I was listening to Sean review. I talk about this on the Fightful podcast on Saturday morning. And he says apparently this happens in like legit sports all the time. Like interim championships happens all the time.
Boxing, UFC.
In professional wrestling, we're just sort of not used to it, because we usually just vacate the title and we do a tournament to crown a new person. So they had this already quite a convoluted battle royal system, because it's the casino battle royale system, to then crown a winner who would then face John Moxley because he's ranked number one, who would then go on to face winners of two other things. So it's a very like convoluted system set up, right? But what I was really excited about with this casino battle royal is that it felt like they were using this as an opportunity to springboard someone else into the main event. So I'm like, absolutely fine. So when I was looking at like this list of, I mean, you said it was like the mid cards battle royal. That's what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be a platform for someone to step up to the next level. There's a bunch of people that I thought should have been in this battle royal, but unfortunately, they're in some other qualifying system for a belt that I really don't care about. Had it been me, I would have just moved that qualifying stuff till next week and brought all of those guys and put them into this battle royal here. Only downside to that is that not everyone's going to win that, and you've got to have them eliminated. And then, like, it felt like this show was then like, well, we can't eliminate Hangman Page from the Battle Royal because that gives him a loss. So we'll give him a storyline reason as to why he's not in that. Or we can't put Wardlow in there because we don't want to have him eliminated, so we'll just give him a storyline reason to not put him in there. And they were fairly flimsy reasons to not do it, but I get why they did it.
Yeah. Yeah, you done?
It's not who I would have picked to have this win. I would have had Wheeler Yuta, but then do you want to have him lose against John Moxley again?
Yes.
Or I would have had Andrade do it because you introduced him when Roosh, and I've done nothing on that on TV since.
So I'm going to try and... what's the ideal version of this? The perfect version. You've just had your champion have to go out with injury. You're going to crown an interim championship. People aren't on board with this. I think that's fair to say.
I was just looking at the chat then. Don't think anyone really is into the idea of it.
No, it's a new thing, but fair enough. If AEW wants to establish this as a ongoing mechanic of their promotion, they've got precedent. They did it with the TNT title earlier in the year. You need to put your money where your mouth is. You can't just put a mid-carder battle royal for the right to face John Moxley. No, you need to do like the full-on... This is everyone's chance in this promotion to become the AEW World title. All of a sudden, Chris Jericho, Hangman Page, Malachi Black, Miro, they have a direct shot at a pay-per-view where they can become the interim AEW World Champion.
Miro and Black are two names that I would have had in this. Pac as another name. Buddy Matthews are names I would have had in this Battle Royal.
For me, that is unforgivable. That is terrible, terrible booking. But okay, you haven't done that. Right. let's go for the version where we try and make a new star. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Again, that's something that looks better when it is like a hugely packed 21-person lineup. Oh, but the mid-carder has eliminated Chris Jericho. He's eliminated Jon Moxley.
We can't have Moxley in a minute.
No, but I think the idea of just the psychology of having someone win, and a heel no less, and then wrestle but an hour later with Moxley is incredibly backwards.
When Darby Allin didn't win this, I was quite surprised.
I mean, for me, looking at this lineup, of course, Yuta and Andrade have much better storylines. I think Yuta could easily have then gone on to face Moxley and lost, because that would just be an awesome new way to establish Yuta at the top.
Crowd were into Yuta as well.
And what a match they had first time round. That's a really great night-long story. And then I'm like, great, you've just used this as another way to give Yuta another notch. With Andrade, he's got a new faction. Roosh is there. This could be a great... And freaking just say Andrade wins. And he's him and Roosh, they're going against Tanahashi. Not both of them, obviously, but
I get what you mean, yeah. Because my problem I have with Kyle O'Reilly winning this is it made the main event, like, it was a surefire thing. Like, going into this, I think everyone was pretty sure it was Jon Moxley. And I think my issue with that then comes is, like, if we all are pretty sure it's going to be Jon Moxley, then you may as well not have done any of this and just announce it's Jon Moxley.
Yeah.
Like,
he's already number one.
He's already ranked number one, so it's going to be him versus the winner of these two, and that's going to be the main event.
Yeah.
So, but, this was a way to fill out a show, I guess, and kind of give something a few stakes. And I'm all for, like, having matches have stakes and this, that, and the other. But I think you could have then used this battle royal to elevate someone and try and create something. Because my problem with Kyle O'Reilly winning is not Kyle O'Reilly winning, because Kyle O'Reilly's awesome. And the match that we got in the main event was
really good.
Absolutely incredible. Which is I think it's probably the reason why I'm not so down on this. I'll get to that in a second. But like, I don't think Kyle O'Reilly's sticking around in the main event picture. I think he's going back into being in the tag team scene with the Undisputed Elite. So it didn't really achieve anything other than just giving us Jon Moxley, which we all thought was going to happen. Had it been like a Miro or a Malachi Black or a Wheeler Yuta or an Andrade or a Darby Allin, I think there might have been a slightly more intrigue going into that main event. But as I said, like, because the main event was so good, I think that's why I was like, well, hey, I got an amazing match out of it, so I guess it wasn't all for naught.
In-ring wrestling is not AEW's problem.
No.
It's absolutely amazing. And that main event, I agree, was terrific. For me, I look at this 21-person lineup, though, Eddie Kingston. I know he's doing other stuff, but my God.
You could easily... It made so much...
Just pull the trigger.
Eddie Kingston versus Jon Moxley in that main event would have been... That was my ideal.
Yeah.
Like, when I saw it was either him or... Actually, I'll be honest. When Keith Lee got eliminated from this Rumble... Sorry, from this Casino Battle Royal, I did start to lose slightly interest in it because I'm like, well, my boy's gone. And then when Kingston was out, I was like, man, we were just using this to further some JAS stuff. I'm glad Jericho wasn't in this. And you made in your review MJF. I'm so glad MJF was not in this.
But it's just, like, the story they're going, that's fine. But it's just another example of how are you going to deal with this huge situation of your world champion, he's out for 3 months. Are you going to just go crazy and be like, oh my God, MJF has got us over a storyline barrel. He has to be put in this, and he wins. And you're like, oh crap, are we going to get a Summer of Punk, but it's MJF with the interim title? How's this like, I expect better of AEW. AEW has consistently gone above and beyond and gone, here's something better than you could have possibly imagined. And that's why I love it. And what they've done here is they have really quite safely and boringly tried to work backwards into the plans they had before.
Yeah, because there are two options to do this. You either do it the way they did, which was play it safe. We're going to go with Jon Moxley as a very safe bet, and then you can face Punk and we'll have a match between those, unify the championships. Or you could do the panic book side of things, which is just like, let's just do this and try this. I think I'm much more online with this, only because I watched Raw on Monday and watched that panic booked episode of a show, which was just, let's throw 20 things at a wall and hopefully one of them sticks. And actually every single one of those strands of spaghetti fell off the wall. And it was actually a really, really bad show off the back of it. At least here I got a decent show.
How many times have WWE done panic booking and it has been absolutely incredible? But it's the follow through that's been the problem.
My point is,
it's always for AEW. I think
God.
they can do the panic booking, and then I would trust them to do the follow through.
Like someone there said, could have been Hook. That would have been that would have been amazing.
Why was Hook not in it? Because I have to eliminate him. Well, you know, there are larger forces at play here where you need to get over this concept of an interim world champion.
That I 100% agree with. I get the argument. Yeah, you don't want to put him in there because you have to eliminate him, and that's a loss against his name, I guess. But and that's why a lot of the those guys aren't in there. But then it does just make it feel like it's a battle royal for the ass boys to get thrown out. Yeah. But the point I was going to make is, I'm so glad. So many people fancy booking MJF in this. I'm so glad he wasn't in it.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him in there, but I just, I look at who you've got because there's so many people are out injured.
The point I was going to make was, with MJF, stick to your plan. Don't panic book that because CM Punk is out.
But by all accounts, they have panic booked that. That's not like a large, looming storyline. That's something they've come up with in the last week.
That's not a panic booked thing. They had a meeting on Monday and have then come up with a plan to then cut this promo on Wednesday and then go off the back of that.
Yeah.
That's not a panicked book decision. That is a meeting that has made a decision and we've gone with that. Off the back of a real world situation that happened a couple days earlier.
Okay. Well, why would this be any different? Because you could argue we knew about the Punk news as of Thursday. Let's book Dynamite for this Wednesday, last Friday. It's the same amount of time.
So but they knew Punk was injured last Thursday after Dynamite.
Yeah.
So they had Rampage to do this. So you've already done the MJF thing.
No, but I'm sorry. I'm talking about how you handle the interim championship.
I'm not saying that. Like I completely agree with you on that. Like you've had for the amount of time they've had, this is not the best version of what you could have done with it.
But it's the lead with the MJF thing is only 3 days longer than the Punk injury thing. Granted, you cut the promo, but then you're like, oh, well, now the top champion's out. Could that somehow improve our plans for the MJF stuff?
I think stick to your guns, because otherwise you could panic book it and it could go backfire. So stick to your guns with what you're doing with MJF.
Just before we move on, my all-time hated spot in wrestling is when you're in a rumble and two tag partners turn on each other midway through because it's everyone for themselves, and I want to turn on him before he turns on me. Do it at the end. You look like an idiot, and Swerve should not look like an idiot, and I feel like he did here. If Swerve then went on to win, another guy who I would have been like, oh, amazing, okay, this is cool, but he didn't.
No, I agree with you. We're also going to agree on this segment here.
The very next thing, they do a video package showing a new championship. It's called the All Atlantic Championship. This is to represent fans from all around the world. They kept on saying how we're the biggest thing in Britain, which, hopefully means they're doing a show over here soon. And the inaugural champion will be crowned in a tournament that will finalize in a four-way.
It's not a tournament.
Qualifying matches for a four-way match at Forbidden Door. It's using all the international talent. You've got Britain's Pac. You've got the Netherlands' Malachi Black. You've got Australia's Buddy Matthews.
Bulgarian's Miro.
Was there...
Pentagon's, he's from Mexico, and then 2 stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah. And then we had an excellent match between Malachi Black and... Pac and Matthews. Like, great. Thigh slapping all over the place.
It was a superb match.
Again, the in-ring wrestling is not the problem. Why do we need another belt?
That was what I could not wrap my head around. Tony Khan looked at his product and was like, I think I need another title here. And rather than go with the quite obvious trios titles, which you have been saying you were going to do for the last 2 years, you looked at it and was like, now what we need is another singles belt. This belt will not be cared about in 6 months' time.
Yeah. Again, it's like...
I don't even give it that long.
The NXT call-ups to the main roster, like after a few, you stop to get excited about them being called up because you're like, well, it never amounts to anything. They can say, we're going to make this as important as every other title as much as they want. I don't care because I've seen what happened to the TNT title. I've seen what happened to the women's title. And that plays into why no one's that fussed about the interim world championship.
It's coming off the back. I would like to argue the case for the TNT title. It has had a few bad months. But before that, it was actually really, really good and was considered to be, a very top secondary title in the company. But it has had a very bad ones, which I think those bad few months have soured all of the good that has come before it, to the point where Wardlow going after that belt later on feels like a massive step down for him. Hopefully it's a way to rebuild this. But you're right in the sense of this feels like a European championship. And I think it will end up being treated as such.
Wrestling Observer had a good point. They agree. I haven't seen anyone defend this, apart from it's a beautiful belt.
It's a lovely looking belt.
Although a lot of people are like, the Atlantic. Last time I checked, Japan and China, I don't know geography, so I defer to them. But apparently that bit's wrong. But it's just like...
It's weird to hear Americans get geography wrong.
The great strength, one of AEW's great strengths, is its variety of wrestling and all the different characters. I couldn't tell you the difference between a lot of their belts other than the World Championship is the top one and all the others are just there.
Just there.
So it's like the Wrestling Observer said, why don't you make this a special kind of X Division style match? A 10-minute time limit division. Then I'd be like, oh, that's something.
Yeah, I guess, but
still.
But when Impact tried it, everyone was just like, that's just the gimmick belt. And they didn't get on board with that either. I can't remember what the belt was called now.
I prefer a gimmick, but
like
the X Division.
Like the Grand Championship or something.
But the pure championship in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, but that's a very divisive belt. There are some people who absolutely... Andy Datson said one of the most boring things he's ever seen is watching pure wrestling.
But at least it's something different.
No, I agree with you. That's why I would have said, have the trios titles. You've got so many trios groups in AEW. You've already got a division built there. A lot of the people in this are part of bloody trios. I cannot fathom the decision to make another singles title here when trios are something that AEW does incredibly well. And you want to have variety and difference, that's variety right there.
But I think, like, just to go to the source of the problem, no belt should be introduced at this time.
No. Oh, so do you want a fun fact about this show? And I noticed it as I was watching this. There's only one segment on the show that was not about a championship belt.
Do you remember a month or two ago when I said there's too many belts from too many different companies? You think that's... You starting to agree?
In a way. I don't think it's... No, because your point was like it turns off casual viewers. And the argument that we had there was not about other too many belts. The argument we had there was about like... I think, devaluing belts. But the argument we had there was it turns off a casual viewer. My argument was there's no such thing as a casual viewer.
So I counted 9 belts on this episode. It goes to 11 if you count the Owen Hart.
That's an insane... I think the Owen Hart's ones have really added to the problem here.
Just make them trophies.
I don't know why... Like, you had a trophy there. Then you need a trophy and belts. Because, like, the belts aren't being defended. They're just being carried around. It's actually just extra luggage for Adam Cole. It was Mick Foley during the invasion when he was in his really grumpy, sour mood and he didn't want to be in the company anymore. He had a promo on an episode of Raw, I think, where he was just like, man, if you haven't held a title at this point in time, you may as well not be here. Because like everyone either had a belt or they were just passing the belts around to each other. There
was a support WrestleTalk sign in the crowd for this match.
Oh, I did actually get a screen cap of it, but I forgot to put in. So here's a kid flipping off... what's his name? Madcap Moss instead.
So we like that. Eddie Kingston cut a promo backstage on Hager, but it quickly became... Either this was a work, but it feels like a shoot. The production guy is like, you've got 30 seconds, counting down. Eddie Kingston just says, stop trying to count me down, man. He drags the guy into shot and cuts a promo on production.
The reason why I thought this was a shoot is because that production guy did not look happy that he'd been brought onto camera.
But of all the episodes to cut a promo on production, this was the one. Then we got the Will Ospreay segment. Then we got a really affecting segment. I just caught me off guard of William Regal and Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, and Adam Cole in a backstage interview.
This time last year.
And Regal's like, I've done a lot for you, but I warn you about taking on Moxley. And it was just like, this is great.
Yeah. And it's just mad to look at that visual and think, this time last year. they were actually on the other show, and these two companies were going against each other in head-to-head ratings stuff. Man, how much that has changed in the year. My favorite thing about this was Regal saying, like, I'm going to be on commentary, and it's going to be a very sad sight to see you get your head caved in with a big smile on his face.
Kyle O'Reilly started to try and get people into his match. I thought he did quite a good job, so kind of really emotive promo. But then I think the same production guys like Adam Cole, you need to get into commentary position. So Cole just like interrupts him, makes him look like a total waste of space, I thought, and then goes to, because, we've got to go to the next segment. Next segment is Adam Cole on commentary for Hangman Page versus David Finlay. Page's first appearance since losing the world title did not look like it affected him.
I think it has.
Well, that's I guess that's what you talk about that.
He drank a beer.
Yes, he sipped a beer.
Whoa.
It's so emotional. Oh, I'm just thirsty.
It's because you're just watching me take a sip of water.
Held by a fan at ringside.
Which he hasn't done. He didn't do while he was world champion. This is the sort of thing he was doing in his down periods before the Dark Order picked him back up, and he went on that trajectory back to the world championship. And here he is. He's lost his belt. Not only that, but the guy he lost it to is injured, and there's an interim champion being crowned. He wasn't booked to be part of that battle royal, and so he's gone back to old familiar. This feels like we're back onto a bit of a slippery slope for Hangman Page here, and perhaps I am blinded by like how much I love this character. That maybe some of the other stuff that, like, the weak ass explanation as to why he wasn't in the battle royal didn't affect me at all. Because all I could think of was like, oh man, he's going back for the drink again.
Yeah, that part of this was really well done, if that's the way they're going. And you assume they are.
Because he's not winning it. He's not beating a Carter either.
Those sorts of subtle bits of storytelling are
Actually,
great.
I hope he loses to Cole. He loses to Cole and doesn't even get that shot.
But it was a good match. And yeah, he cuts a promo afterwards saying how and this is my problem, management didn't book me in the Battle Royal, so it looks like I'm not getting a shot at the AEW World Championship anymore. So I am going to go for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, challenges Kazuchika Okada. That is terrible. Like, that for me, the week after MJF said this company is crap and people cheered him, for Hangman to say that, which makes me think, the company is crap.
I wouldn't link those two together.
I think it's a dangerous way to go.
And MJF didn't say AEW was crap.
He did.
No, it's not what he said. It was like Tony Khan is paying ex-WWE
guys lots of money. He said Tony Khan is a effing mark who, like, and the implication of that is this is just because Tony Khan is a wrestling geek and he tries to hang out with wrestlers.
From a business perspective, not from you're a bad company that does bad booking.
I think that doesn't one follow the... Well, for me, in a
kayfabe world,
yeah,
like Tony Khan is not booking people to win and lose matches.
But that MJF's accusation was that he's just filling it with all his favorite like guys in a marquee way.
But yeah, I don't connect those two together.
Okay, well, what do you think about Hangman saying management didn't book me? How the ass boys in the Battle Royal?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a weak ass excuse to not put him in the Battle Royal. Yeah. But like you have to have a line in there to explain why he's not in the Battle Royal, because you didn't want to eliminate him from the Battle Royal. So you had to have a line there to explain it, right? It's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a problem of their own making.
Of course it is.
And just say Hangman's like, do another thing to play into the sort of self-doubt of Hangman's character. Yeah. Like, maybe he could say, I'm not going to put myself in.
I don't want to be in the Battle Royal.
Yeah. I'm just taking some time for myself. I'm going to have a good time. One of those sorts of good times where you're like, he's not having a good time.
He's having a bad time.
And then Adam Cole stands up and was like, oh, God, I forgot about you on commentary. And Adam Cole's like, well, I'm going to face Okada.
Could be Jay White.
Could be Jay White. That's the whole idea there. Bullet Club. And I was just like, I'm done with Cole and
I'm starting to get the feeling that Forbidden Door is not something that you're particularly engaged for.
Not the way it's been built, certainly not. If you asked me a couple of months ago, I'd be like, yes, please. That is my dream.
Yeah. But at the moment, it's not lighting your fires.
No.
I really do think the CM Punk injury has hurt a lot of the AEW appeal at the moment because Punk got injured and then they made this mad announcement on Friday. An announcement so insane for this convoluted way to get to this interim championship. No one knew what it was.
Not even the announcers.
Not even the announcers knew what it was. He said, I drafted so many tweets. I'd post tweets and then people would correct me. So I had to delete that tweet and start again. I gave up in the end. AEW had to release statements to be like, this is what is going on. And even that felt like it was wrong. And that feels like it's a panic booked thing, and that I think is bad.
You think we're going for because Cole's injured? I can't see how Hangman and him are going to have a match for the right to face Okada.
Well, apparently, it must be all right then.
Or it's Cole, Hangman, Okada at the pay-per-view.
It's a triple threat,
and Cole takes the pin.
I'm less into that. I'd rather just be a one-on-one match.
Well, let's see what happens.
For me, the appeal.
This to me said triple threat.
The appeal for me is singles. It's AEW versus New Japan. What I don't want to see is AEW and AEW versus New Japan.
It's Buckshot Lariat versus.
That's it. Yeah,
Rainmaker.
That writes itself. Like that for me is a much bigger appeal.
Thunder Rosa had a boring promo backstage with Marina Shafir, who showed no personality. Wardlow comes out.
Christmas Day.
I'm just done with these women's segments, the way they present them.
Mm.
Wardlow comes out, and he has an even worse reason for not being in the Battle Royal. He says, well, the reason I'm not here in the Battle Royal is because I only want to beat CM Punk because he's the champion. I'm like, well, who should care about the interim title now?
It's one man's opinion. I agree with you. It is not a great line. I kind of get the reasoning for it, though, to be like, look, if I'm going to win the World Championship, I'm going to win the World Championship. I'm not going to win the interim World Championship. So, some people have got different ideas of what a World Championship is. That is what his idea of it is. I don't think him saying that taints the idea completely of an interim champion. Like,
I think it does.
I don't think it paints for the entire audience to be like, well, if he doesn't care about it, then I don't care about it.
So I've just had two back-to-back segments, almost, of the former champion saying management didn't put me in the 21-man match to win the title. And the person who's meant to be one of the hotter babyface acts says,
don't feel like at the moment, though.
Nah, I don't want that either. I'm like, this is
so
bad.
So awful reasonings to not put the match. Here's what I would say. I appreciate them trying, but man, did you fail.
Yeah, because like the WWE version of this is they just don't
engage in it.
But every segment on this show should start with, how do we get the interim world title over, and you work backwards from there.
Can I give you a spot that I fantasy booked for this? Put Wardlow in there and have the 20 security guards eliminate him. And then you can have Mark Sterling set up that later where he was like, because they set up a Wardlow versus 20 men match next week.
It's an idea. I don't think it's
at least
fine.
It puts him in the Battle Royal. It gives him a reason to be eliminated.
Yeah, it's a bit comedy, though.
But like what? Yeah, I know. But what else are you after with Wardlow? He's in a comedy feud.
Just have him win.
What? Have him win the interim world title? He may as well.
He needs something.
Why to feed him for the TNT title to try and make that title feel more appealing, which I am all for.
Yeah.
I am more all. Do you know what?
So Wardlow also said because the TNT title isn't very good either. At the moment.
He did say. Well, no, what he said was some people have tried to ruin the legacy of the TNT title. I've just won the Intercontinental title, and the first promo you cut is I'm going to restore legacy back to this prestige back to this title. It's what he was trying to do. I think I was so the whole management thing and I wanted to face the real champion didn't affect me. Because I was so blinded by this is Wardlow's world being one of the worst things they could have script time to say. That is, Stephen Lust said this in their review. That for me is a moment where you're like, no, you go to the back and you start that again. Like, you start this whole segment again because if his deal now is going to start every segment being like, welcome to Wardlow's world, that's going to kill him hard because that is a bad way to start promos. Makes him sound like an absolute chump.
It's lame, isn't it?
It's really lame.
Unfortunately, he's competent on the mic. And for some reason, Tony Khan is like, well, give him some promos then. Nuh-uh. I think, if you're going to Goldberg him, he has two words that he says ever. Some wrestlers, their mystique and overness is taken away when they talk, no matter how good they are. this gimmick...
Brock Lesnar used to be one of them.
Yeah, this gimmick should not be someone cutting promos.
That I would 100% agree with. Him trying to restore some legacy to the TNT, or some prestige to the TNT title, though, that I'm completely on board for. I have a feeling he's not going to win it, though, which I think then creates a different problem.
Mark Sterling came out afterward. Well, no, he was backstage, and he said, you can either see me in court, or you've got to take on 20 security guards in an elimination match, which is hilarious. And it'll be a fun visual, but this isn't working.
His whole run, the whole 2 years, completely derailed by one person not showing a meet and greet.
Young Bucks promo. They're backstage. They say they want the tag titles. The Hardys then came in and said, well, we beat you at Double or Nothing. And then Jurassic Express came in, presumably hearing this.
Well, they literally said that.
Yeah.
So
get the doors open.
Yeah, they Young Bucks are in their locker room. And then Matt and Jeff walk in being like, mate, you shouldn't really leave that door open. Like, because we can hear you in the hallway talking about us. So they walk in. And then, yeah, Christian Cage and Jurassic Express also because like, literally, we heard you talking about us.
Yeah, I was kind of done with the being the elite cutesiness at this point. So that bit irked me. Usually I would have been like, haha, that's a fun joke. But not here. And Jurassic Express, Christian sort of put over, well, let's make it a three-way then. Next week, ladder match.
Poor Jeff.
With the titles on the line.
This, all I can think of is, poor Jeff, man. Like,
poor Jeff.
Like, stop booking Jeff Hardy in these matches. It's got to stop. This is, we just had, Jeff was not in a fit state because he got his bell rung in the match against the Young Bucks at Double or Nothing. We were struggling to move up. Really banged up after that big war that he had with Darby Allin. 2 weeks later, put him in a ladder match. That's reckless for me. I think that is completely reckless to do. To put some positive on this, I thought the work between Christian Cage and Jungle Boy was awesome. Mm-hmm. I thought Jungle Boy's facial background, and Christian Cage had these amazing lines where he said, "Look, you don't just get to have it; you've got to earn your shot at the titles, like we did." Like, you know, he's trying to take you like, "Oh yeah, no, we're the tag team champions," even though he is literally just their manager. So I like that. And he was like, "Yeah, you pinned Jungle Boy in his hometown in front of his family." But he's trying to say it as like as a positive. Like,
it's really well done.
It's so well done by Christian, and then him setting up this match. Jungle Boy's like, "Why the hell are you setting us up in another triple threat match?" To try, because it feels like at this point it's Christian trying to get the titles off of the Young Bucks, but he's failing in doing so.
I hope he succeeds.
Next week, they've got to take the titles off of them.
It's too much of a joke at this point. I've been saying this for 3-4 months now. Also, did you see Dax's tweet? I think Young Bucks posted the match graphic for next week being like, you know, finally we're getting our shot. And Dax retweeted that saying, lol, 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 lol. And it is a shot of like the last 8 weeks of rankings, and FTR are number 1 every week.
Yeah, that's how the rankings work.
I know. Marina Shafir then took on Thunder Rosa.
If I was to put money on anything, I think the FTR will be the AEW Tag Team Champions by the summer. I think the Young Bucks are basically going to return the favor and have the short reign to go back to FTR like they did a couple of years back.
Thunder Rosa beat Marina Shafir with a roll up. Was it a roll up, or was it sort of like an inside?
I don't know. Like, this was. I love the presentation of Marina Shafir. But crikey, the absolute silence that she comes out to is deafening.
She's the problem.
Yeah, I know. It comes on the screen being the problem. It's like, yeah, there's a problem, all right. And this is only her second Dynamite match. It's also the second one that's been for a title as well. And like, again, I love the presentation. I think the music is great. I think sort of the hoodie and everything is wonderful, but people don't care. And why should they? This is the second time she's ever been on Dynamite. I like the fact, though, to give some positives on this, 10-minute match. It was given time, and I think they worked hard to try and get the crowd into it, and the crowd were trying to do this. And at least it had some form of setup for it, which is that Thunder Rosa was like, I'll challenge anyone to this belt. Marina Shafir walks up and agrees, and then we have this match. So at least there is a setup, and there is a payoff, and at the end of this, we have a much bigger match off the back of it. So there is a net positive to this, but it wasn't that great.
Yeah, a low bar. I don't think it even really stepped over that low bar, but I guess it was close. Toni Storm came out afterwards because Shafir attacked Rosa in Rosa's victory, and Toni Storm sort of picked up the title and posed with it for a bit and then gave it back to Thunder Rosa.
Didn't quite posing. She sort of, held it, looked at it, and then handed over. As I said, get a much bigger match off the back of it. So net positive, thumbs up in the end, but it wasn't the greatest women's segment. Apparently, Thunder Rosa is like, and unsurprisingly, a bit unhappy in AEW at the moment. And why wouldn't she be?
Yeah. The Baddies then set up Chris Statlander versus Red Velvet backstage for Rampage, and then we got the...
It was the only segment on the show that was not about a championship belt, and there was a champion in it. I will laugh, actually, sorry, before we move on. Stokely Hathaway not knowing Chris Statlander's name and calling her Kristen Highlander. That made me laugh.
And Jon Moxley took on Kyle O'Reilly in the main event, which was a banger of a match.
So good.
These two work so well together. Stiff strikes, submissions. Just like, Kyle O'Reilly is phenomenal. And Moxley has just got everything to perfection this since he's returned from rehab, really. I never bought into the
That's the problem.
It felt like a middle show match.
That for me is the problem. Marina Shafir in this match is that Kyle O'Reilly was never going to win this.
Yeah,
and I think if you were going to go to the trouble of having a massive battle royal to crown someone to face Jon Moxley, put someone in there that at least fans would be like, oh, maybe they could go in that direction. But no one in this building or watching at home thought, I think Kyle's got a chance to win here.
Yeah,
and that for me is the biggest error in this. But I would say that, I mean, going by the reaction that I got to this show on Twitter, I said this to you this morning. I had legit 5 people messaging me this morning to be like, I loved this episode of Dynamite. I can't wait for Oli to hate it. And I think that because that main event was so great, it's how you leave them, folks. And everyone was like, that was a really, really good episode of Dynamite because that was a killer main event. It's only when you go back and look at it step by step, which is what we have done today. Because when I came in, all I could think of was that main event. When these go step by step, you're like, oh, actually, a lot of this isn't all that great. Still think it's a 3 out of 5 episode.
Which is pretty bad by AEW standards.
It's a good... I hate it when people do this. When you give it something a 3 out of 5, be like, oh, so you hated it then.
Yeah, but like...
It's what people do when you give it like 75% of a rating.
So why... So...
Black
Widow.
Yes. It's an
average movie.
It's a 2 out of 5 film.
Really disappointing by MCU standards. How's that different to this situation?
This isn't Black Widow. This isn't Black Widow levels of blandness.
I honestly...
Because Black Widow is not a bad movie. Black Widow is a bland movie. And this wasn't a bland episode.
It was a bad episode.
It was a bad episode, but the in-ring wrestling was really, really good. So that levels it up a little bit.
I feel like they're quite similar. But yeah, I gave it 78%. But God, after talking, like, I actually think it might be the worst AEW episode of the year. Previously, that honor had gone to the Deonna Purrazzo main event one, which I gave 74 to. So this must be 73. But I don't enjoy this. I'm not like, yay, AEW's dying, because it isn't dying either. That's important to point out, but it is what it is.
For me, it was not the world's greatest episode of Dynamite, but it is not the end of the world.
Before we get on to our remaining Omega chats, let's say a very special thank you to our wonderful Pledgehammers on Patreon. Chris, the Separate Sensation Patrol.
He's no jackass, Dano.
Derek, Dodge, Duck, Dip, Dive and Dodge, LA.
Well done. Barbaric Garrick Morgan.
Gavin Cash Money Cashiwabra.
Kick to the face. Get off my plane. It's an Air Force One reference.
Fantastic Mr. Good Old Fox.
The Venerable Jesse Venable.
The Cleaner Kenny Shah.
Liam Great Scott.
The British Bulldog Philip Boy J. Smith Jr.
And WrestleTalk's personal ring announcer Rodrigo Benitez. Just getting a quick update on the WrestleTalk Extra poll.
Ooh.
Which we were talking about on the Raw podcast.
Good God,
it was coming third. TNA Slammiversary 2005. It was coming third place. Behind, of all shows, bloody Capital Punishment 2011. Terrible, boring show. The only interesting thing about that show is the afterwards, CM Punk cuts a pipe bomb promo on Raw a couple of weeks later. The only interesting thing of note. So I put out a plea. Please vote for Slammiversary 2005. it is currently winning the poll with 38% against Capital Punishment's 30%.
Oh, that's
it is
good to hear.
Currently winning, which I'm very, very pleased about because we want Slammiversary to win. I don't want to watch Capital Punishment.
Does also mean we have to use TNA's streaming service. Is that King of the Ring
96.
Okay.
Yeah. And interestingly, FWA Vendetta from 2003 got a nomination.
Who's on that show?
That show is
FWA, a British promotion from back in the day.
Zebra Kid versus 5-Star Flash, Johnny Storm versus Super Crazy,
Wow.
Burchill versus Mark Sloan and Simmons, and a main event of Doug Williams versus Bryan Danielson.
I mean, you know,
It's got 4% of the vote.
FWA is like the overlooked
Oh yeah.
the medieval period. Is actually a lot of stuff happened then, and I feel like that's the medieval period of British wrestling that no one looks at.
It was my local promotion when I was at university in Portsmouth. They used to go to gym halls to watch FWA Academy shows. Used to love going to those because in the middle of it they would just put on Johnny Storm versus Jody Fleisch to be like, thanks for coming to watch the trainees. Here's Johnny Storm versus Jody Fleisch. Oh, also we've flown over AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels to do their routine.
Right, so Omegachats, Chris D. I've been dying to see Will in AEW. Do you think he's staying? I don't think he is.
No, this is just the flying visits.
Nicholas Ward. Hi, boys. Did you know that AEW...
Can I give you a little... I brought these in, so I got a little package arrived for this.
Down a bit.
I've got something... It's not a bit. I've got these... it's possibly for the set, but they are a little special gifts. But so... Hold on.
Shall I close my eyes?
Yeah, go on, close your eyes. Maybe we could do the rest of the Ultra Chats. Oh, I can get one for you as well. Open up.
It took me a while to realise who that was.
Yeah. These used to be Patreon perks for signing up for Fightful Select. And they've got loads of them they were looking to get rid of, so I messaged. And I was like, I will take a couple off your hands.
It feels like all the pictures of Sean I've got at home that I've burnt the eyes out of. Now we just give them away.
Yeah, for podcast listeners, these are Sean Ross Sapp face masks.
I'm not going to do that with you. I can't see the screen.
Also, if we're thinking of like new Patreon,
horrible.
If we're looking for new Patreon perks, masks of our faces. Apparently, it worked for Fightful Select.
I think we should send out Sean one. Nicholas Ward. Hi, boys. Did you know that AEW is #1 in the UK? I wonder if Pac was going to beat Matthews. Yeah, so they kept on putting that over.
I did not put those two and two together, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I really should have done.
Don't block the sponsor.
I was trying to stand it up.
Riot DR. Pac and Buddy have always been like passing ships in the night. In NXT, Buddy was in that dubstep tag team, and Pac left 205 Live when Buddy was coming through. I love this match, and it was worth the wait, though I have felt the need to do more push-ups.
God, they're massive, aren't they? Buddy Matthews, huge.
Noah Fortner. I don't know who likes tournaments more, Tony Khan or Adam Blombier. But seriously, do we need more belts?
Nope.
They'll have 9 belts just within AEW, not including all the ones from other promotions.
Trios titles would have fixed that.
The bad one, Jam Beard. Also, the in-ring action was fantastic up and down the show. Kyle O'Reilly got to show out. Shafir looked strong in her defeat. And United Kingdom, I think you mean Empire, could be the stable gang warfare action at the pay-per-view instead of Undisputed Era Bullet Club. Have them face FTR and Best Friends.
It will be a fun match. It's not what I would have done with Will Ospreay.
Jacob Smith. I'm away for 2 weeks and Tony Khan introduces 3 new belts, none of which are trios titles. Put them all together. Still, the AAA,
No, it's in like the
All Atlantic title could be a great workhorse championship for that TNT title scene AEW aren't using.
In all fairness, all the people in this are the people you said should be in their TNT title scene.
Yes!
Yeah, they're just in a different title scene now. You fans, you're just so fickle. You don't really know what you want. You asked for something, they gave you it, or a version of it, and you said, no, that's bad.
It's the monkey's paw. Jacob finishes, I noticed a bit of UK name dropping, perhaps foreshadowing. I thought the exact same thing, potentially a show over here soon, hopefully. DX Solo. I was a bit annoyed when Darby jumped off the top rope. Feel like he should have been eliminated. I know he didn't win, and it doesn't matter, but that was dumb.
Oh, I missed that.
Did he jump off the top rope?
To the outside?
I know he ran outside right at the start to get a skateboard. Riot DR. In my view, every roster divide needs a championship. Main title, women's title, tag title, work rate title, and maybe a lower card title. I don't think I understand the All-Atlantic title's purpose in AEW. Feels a lot like the WWF European title.
I also argue that not every division needs a title belt. You can, like, so many... MJF versus Punk. Feud of the year, not a title in sight.
I like a lot of feuds to be around the number one contendership for who faces the top champion next.
Me too.
It's my favourite way to tell wrestling stories. DX Solo, fun story. A bit weird to have so few of the uninjured main eventers not in the Battle Royal. SWAF Nation, if you haven't already, you should go back the Grubs Kickstarter. Let's get Sully and Rosie to the fringe. I went crazy and pledged £1,000. Was that you, DX Solo?
It must have been one of them.
Sully is a very happy boy.
Oh, he certainly is.
Jack Nichols, the All-Atlantic Championship is beautiful. However, All-Atlantic, as a name, is a bit cumbersome. I'll get used to it, I suppose. Really hyped to see All Ego versus Miro. I've seen Penta versus Black too many times now, but the winner should be Penta. It should always be Penta.
Well, I think it's probably going to be Malachi Black in this instance.
Mang, instead of Hangman Okada, we might get a tag match between Switchblade Bebe and Team Ridiculous Lariat. Also, remember when Tony Khan said he will introduce new belts? All-Atlantic Champion, new TNT, and 2 Owens belts. That's surely what we're expecting. I think you meant Tony Khan said he won't introduce new belts. Because back in the day, he said he's going to limit the number of belts.
Well, you know, coffees are crazy.
Nikos Lindaros, Okada versus Hangman? Hell yeah, that's the dream match I've been shoot, it's Adam Cole. I don't hate Cole, but I swear if he ruins that match or we get something like a Page and Okada versus Jay and Cole tag match, I will start doing so. It will start doing so. Southern Blue, Mox is my favourite wrestler. He's the reason I started watching again. But if the interim champ is going to lose to Punk, then I think it would have been a great time to build a new main event heel. Also, love all the content you guys do. Keep being awesome. Thank you.
Put the belt on Miro.
Swaggle Boone. I hope that the new All-Atlantic title has a gimmick to set it apart. Maybe only defended against someone from another country. Also, Wardlow and the TNT title are exactly what each other needs. And I hope Tanahashi wins the interim AEW title. Jam that jam.
Me too.
Omar Joshua. I know Oli was down on the episode, but I enjoyed it a lot. Personally, I would have wanted Darby to win and have the first guy Punk beat in AEW to be the first guy that faces him when he comes back, now for the strap against a more experienced Darby, but oh well. That's a nice story. Noah Fortner. I'm kind of with Oli on this. The AEW I fell in love with is not the same anymore. It's not in any way a bad show, but something has felt off about AEW for a while now. I'm just not sure what it is. It's a lack of focus, I would say, is the chief amongst them. Will Campbell. Hi guys. Much like Tony Khan doesn't seem to know how to book his tag straps when they're not on the Bucks, he also doesn't seem to know how to book his women's belts when it's not on Britt. Rosa has had less than 30 minutes of non-pay-per-view TV time over the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's probably way less than that. I'd also argue as well that I don't think he booked Britt particularly well either.
Definitely not near the end. Nate S. I can't believe I didn't realise it before he walked out, but Eddie would have been perfect to win the Battle Royal / interim title. Gives him his title run without forcing it. Could have even facilitated Punk's heel turn on his return. Jericho feud ends over the title. Eddie versus Mox too. I know.
It was a much better decision.
Ket. Wardlow's reasoning for not being in the Battle Royal, especially if you did the whole match of Eddie accidentally eliminating people because he's so focused on murdering Garcia, he doesn't even know he's won it. That's a bad story. Ket. Wardlow's reasoning for not being in the Battle Royal makes him look like a dummy. You can still face Punk for the title once he comes back. Yeah, it's kind of like a number one contender's belt. Also, gotta agree with Oli. Last night's show was pretty meh for the most part.
No, I think what Oli said was this was a terrible show, the worst show of the year.
That is important to point out. I don't think it was meh. I think it was actively bad. JS, woo! Luton. Fellas, AEW really is a sad product now. Punk's win has me soured on the company, and the new belt may be beautiful. It just feels like the consolation title for AEW originals who Tony Khan would never make AEW World Champion. It's just sad, but DAD and top hair Oli for life.
I mean, a lot of the people on the match aren't AEW originals, though.
No.
A lot of them are all the new boys. So I don't agree with that. And I know there are people who are down on Punk's win, but you're okay, Jess. He's not champion anymore. Maybe they should have just kept the belt on Hangman, because, as we all know, it would have been the better decision.
I'll hot tag to you.
Matt Hennessy. Hey, guys. Been a while since I ultra chatted, but I was watching Ollie's reviews, and he mentioned how AEW should put the tag belts on the Young Bucks next week, and I strongly disagree. While I think Jurassic Express should lose next week, it should be to the Hardys.
Oh, I just don't... I don't buy them as a credible threat.
DX Solo got me so excited when I saw the new belt because I finally thought trios. Instead, it was a random new belt. I like tournaments, but do they really need another singles belt? No. Just want to say it again, not a tournament. Chris says, it seems like we reached the end of the honeymoon is over with the debuts, and even surprises don't pop as much as they used to. No real stories. I think Tony acting like a fan on social media doesn't help either.
No, I don't like the way he conducts himself on social media.
Very, very poor. Chris D, AEW has earned my trust and loyalty until the wheels fall off. They have put on a product that has been so consistently good, I'm not going anywhere.
Same here.
Matt Hennessy, Matt and Jeff winning next week makes sense to me when it comes to name value, legacy, and mainstream appeal. They are AEW's biggest tag team. Plus, I'm a big Hardy mark, and there is money to be had on a nostalgic run with them as champions.
A very short run for FTR to beat them isn't the worst idea.
Eternal Blue was there last night. The show was a really mixed bag. The Rosa Shafir match took a lot of the air out the room. Came unglued for Ospreay, though. Watch Rampage. Very fun recording. Watching Aussie Open and Ospreay wrestle in the States felt surreal. Benz says, this episode felt to me like when WWE dropped most things for brand warfare. That's a great... That's such a good comparison.
How did we not see that?
That's what it is.
It's Survivor Series.
It's Survivor Series. But Survivor Series with actual stakes.
Really?
Well, I mean, they are going for titles, so they're not great stakes, but hey, they are stakes. Someone will win something. Plus, to me, the main event felt pointless. Why bother having the Battle Royal if there isn't the guy that's going to get the title shot? For me, it's the second worst AEW show of the year. Steve Atkin, remember how great Dexter was upon a time and how questionable creative led to it becoming forgettable? Then worst, hysterically bad. AEW is now starting to get demonstrably questionable creative with scary regularity. Not bad, but it could get there.
Yep, Steve, that's a great encapsulation of how I feel.
Danny G, one bad show does not a bad company make, but there were some baffling decisions made last night. Pointless new title, waste of Will's debut, awful Battle Royal, most criminally of all, no Satnam Singh. He is on Rampage.
Why isn't he in the Battle Royal?
Because he's on Rampage.
How will you eliminate him? Big Show should have been in there.
Ten Rosa, Ollie, two things. One, you just have to give it a little time because a part of me thinks that Tony has something rumbling and they will announce it soon, and it's got to do with the Ring of Honor TV negotiations next year. Two, the push of United Empire for Forbidden Door is a very New Japan thing to do.
You're right. I should get really excited about the backstage business dealings.
You do the WrestleTalk news, and you do get excited about that.
But I'm talking here about content on the main product here.
Matt Hennessy, the Bucks held up the AEW tag titles for nearly a year, and by putting the belts on them again, you take opportunities away from more exciting options. Love the channel and content, but being a big Hardy mark, I'm hoping they win next week. I think I'm starting to get the feeling that Matt really wants. That's the third Omega chat he sent in saying this is why the Hardys should win. The Milkman. I found Wardlow's reasoning for stepping down more plausible because he basically beat Punk, but MJF interferes.
Well, the best way to get that shot against Punk is by becoming the interim AEW World Champion.
Plasma PD, morning Luke and Oli. I missed you guys. Only complaint with the new title is the rankings are lumped together instead of title divisions, and this is basically Tony Khan's only fault in bringing in the new belt. I also wanted Roosh to be the Joker instead of Andrade. Then he wouldn't have won. That would have been his first loss. Hawk the Outcast 823. I'll forgive too many belts. If Arn Anderson presents the All-Atlantic Championship title, it writes itself. Joe. Arn Anderson, All-American.
Ah, yes.
All-Atlantic,
that
rather.
Definitely makes it worth it.
Monty Granito, AEW is still good, but where's the long-term storytelling? Watching Hangman and Omega's 3-year arc, everything seemed important and had repercussions. Now it feels slapdash. We're inventing belts. Beth athletes are being stuck in the mid-cards.
Yeah, I feel like the CM Punk MJF was the next long-term program for the company, but And that's not gone. It's just a bit weird right now.
Yeah, I'm excited.
But I can't see anything else.
Well, I mean, MJF. I just said MJF. I'm still really excited to see where the MJF story goes. Like, that feels like that is going to be a long-term story. I still think there's a long-term story in Hangman Page and Punk. So there is still stories there. It's just they're not the ones that are at the forefront at the moment because we've got this New Japan show to build to. Luca says, at the show last night, and we'll be in, I'm going to guess, St. Louis?
Yeah.
For Dynamite next week. Other than the section trying to start a boring chant at the start of the women's match, I enjoyed it. Rampage was great. There was a kid in the front row with me where there was a kid in row front of me with an Ollie do a Drake Maverick sign.
Nice.
Matt Hennessy, AEW could tell a good story on how to make how they could have been tag team champions in back to the Hardys in every major American wrestling company except AEW. By giving them the belt, it creates a great moment, and the Hardys could put over a team like FTR down the line.
Yep, I think Matt wants the Hardys to win.
James Weston, do you think that Redragon could join Blackpool Combat Club? It felt like there's a Bullet Club invasion coming and Cole will side with them, leaving Red Dragon out. Love you guys. Keep up the great work.
I don't think so, and I also hope not, because that faction should be about new guys.
DX Solo, TK. Well, Mox is number 1, so he gets a shot. Fans. So FTR gets a tag title shot too, right? TK. Don't be ridiculous. We're doing a triple threat match with the Bucks and the Hardys. Aoife Cassidy, I interrupted Wardlow's promo by implying a certain amount of respect for Punk given their mutual history. Oh, I interpreted Wardlow's promo by implying a certain amount of respect for Punk given their mutual history with MJF.
I don't think it works.
Legit Underboss, I think the Atlantic Championship should be defended like the SWA title in Stardom, where the champion can't defend against someone from their own country.
Huh.
I don't know if you got, like, enough representation, like... So Pac wouldn't be able to wrestle. I mean, who else is British in the company?
Will Ospreay.
Jamie Hayter.
Yeah,
Ten Rosa. Also, lads, please check out Timothy Thatcher, who is nowhere now and had a stellar match. He seems to be home there and so happy for him. Enjoy the Australian dollars. Loved Dynamite. Loved Mox and Carl. This is a great time. Forbidden Door has me pumped. Sadie Degenhausen. Hello, boys. I agree with Luke. It was a great show. It was a great show. I'm so pumped about Forbidden Door. Hangman vs. Okada, hell yes. Ollie, I'm sorry, but you sound paranoid. AEW is AE good. Ospreay and Pals look like they're on Love Island. Love you both. Hashtag more belts.
If I'm paranoid, it's because I've been burnt by so many shows and wrestling promotions over the years.
It does look like, so I saw a big video advert for Love Island. And I do look at those a bit like, it all look like a massive bunch of pricks. Matt Carney, when reviewing AEW in the future, imagine that it's the only wrestling company on the planet and critique it from that perspective. Maybe bad, but WWE is worse. It's bad logic and will blind your objective vision. Isolate AEW and then review it. It's what, in fairness, that is what you have done from day dot. But people had a go at you for not comparing it to AEW. So to WWE, rather.
Yeah. Well, I think Matt might be agreeing with me.
He is.
Yeah.
But I think what he is saying is that that's what we should be doing now.
Right.
And is what you have been, is what we have always been doing. Jesse Starr, Ollie's good isn't good enough opinion is incredibly annoying. Let go of your pessimism.
Nope.
Spider65. I'm with Ollie. Not a great first appearance for Ospreay. Should have been in a dream singles match at Forbidden Door. He's in a complete package and on the same level as Omega. I agree with Ring of Honor diluting AEW's core. I hope they can course correct. I still love watching. Tyler Robinson, Kenny Omega is licking his lips to come back now, seeing how many new belts he can collect. Mark, thought this episode was actually alright, though some bits just needed a second draft. However, every time I hear Wardlow, I get the Elmo's World theme song stuck in my head for the rest of the day. I get Wayne's World stuck in my head. I'm expecting him to go, party time, excellent. Right, we're trying something new for a change.
Oh, okay.
Rather than put up a poll on the community tab, I've asked the live chat to give me the scores for this episode of Dynamite.
Won people over
exactly
in our arguments.
And we only started the poll once we had finished our review. So people have heard all the arguments and stuff, and that, I think, should give us a much clearer idea of people's thoughts on Dynamite.
Or how much mind control we have.
That's what I was thinking. And currently, 3 out of 4, AEW, which is 4 out of 5, is winning the poll, 47%, with 28% think it was a perfect 4 out of 4 show.
And what was the one below?
Mid 2 out of 4, 22%.
That's a lot higher than usual.
It is actually, yeah. And 3% saying 1 out of 4, what the buck.
Well, long episode today. Sorry,
Bloody
I
hell,
went
it
off
was.
a lot. But I feel this was like the moment that crystallized all the problems I've been feeling over the last few months. So I'm worried.
Well, I'm not worried about geology. Click the link in the video description down below. Get yourself 50% off your 30-day free trial. Take that 30-second quiz and start making yourself look beautiful. You deserve it.
Yes.
Yeah, you do deserve it. Jam that jam?
Jam that jam.
Jam that jam.